This is where the fun begins.
Are you sure? So be it. Did you miss me?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caf Chat. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. And how are you guys doing? And first off, what is in your mug? What is in your mug? I thought I grabbed the Coruscant one, and I grabbed the Los Angeles one. This is my daughter's. And yeah, so I thought I grabbed the Coruscant collector's mug, and I didn't. So yeah, so I'm happy to be here with you guys. And again, please like, subscribe, and share. Become a member if you are happy, if you have the means to support that way. And as always, if you're catching the replay, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you. And also comment below. Let me know of any conversation you want to create with what we're talking about here today. So comment below if you're catching the replay. Let me know you were here. So I see everybody is bouncing in. Thank you guys so much. Our topics are going to be good ones this week. And I don't like my lighting today. Wow. The sun is changing, like we're shifting towards winter or towards fall. And so when I rely on just the sunlight from my window for lighting and my ring light is in another room, you could tell the difference between summer, fall, winter, spring kind of deal. Yeah. So anyways, now that I went on that little rant about my lighting, our topics are today, we are going to do Exar Kun part 2, which we're just going to talk about his Jedi training first, because there's two other topics I want to talk about that I feel that are very, very important today. And that is lightsabers and the Force. So what makes, first of all, question here. What makes a person Force sensitive? How do you think that everybody is capable of being Force sensitive in the Star Wars lore? Or do you think there is, or do you think that it's limited to people depending on genetics and stuff? So let me know in the chat, what makes a person Force sensitive? Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and switch directions here. There we go. Yeah. So what makes a person Force sensitive? Type that in. And the next question, and I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat because everybody's bouncing in, coming on. Do you think that anyone can harness the Force? Do you think anyone can harness the Force? Now, the reason why I'm presenting this question here is because even you could be privy to what was it's the Ahsoka Show. So you could be privy to what happened there without watching, right? You could be privy to certain scenes and stuff like that and how they all played out. So Ahsoka is making it sound like anybody can harness the Force, and that is being discussed now on Twitter, and it's a kind of alarming because now they're making it to where making it sound anybody can be Force sensitive. You know, like the favorite Oprah meme, you can have the Force and you have the Force and you have the Force kind of deal. When everybody is able, are Force sensitive and can be a Jedi, what have you, then no one is. So when, it's like when everybody's special, no one's special. So this is what we're getting to here. There is what do you call it? A video from George Lucas, and he talks about, and it's also in, and I don't have it next to me, but it's also in the archives for episode 1 through 3. And he talks about how everybody has the force, or because the force flows through life. You need to slow down. My mind's going a mile a minute. So everybody has the force. And what he means by that is everybody has the force because force is the thing that surrounds and binds everybody, right? And I'm going straight into this topic already. I'm sorry. So everybody, so it surrounds and binds life, everything that Yoda says in to Luke in Empire Strikes Back. The force surrounds and binds us. We are luminous beings, not the crude matter that we live in, our bodies. However, how one uses the force and how force sensitive they are determines their midichlorians. And yes, people, when they first heard about the midichlorians, people did not care for them because people didn't understand the approach George Lucas was doing. They thought that this was cheapening the force. They thought that this was explaining and not having the force stay a mystery. And so people, through misunderstandings, misunderstood George Lucas. My bra strap's showing. There we go. So misunderstood George Lucas. But that's not what George was saying whatsoever. He was saying that basically, in layman terms, that the force is just the midichlorians is just the conduit on how someone uses the force. So if you have very low force or midichlorians, you're not going to be able to even use the force or even train to use the force. So training is a key factor here. You have to train to fully use the force and stuff. So that's another key factor. But if you have such a small count, then you're considered not force sensitive, or you don't qualify, or the force you just cannot use the force in general. The force is still within you. The force still flows through you. You are still part of the force, but you just can't use it. You just can't harness it. And that's what people are misunderstanding. Let me see what you guys say. I just went straight into that because it's been a conversation since last night. And I'm going to share what that conversation is pretty soon. And then we'll get into some more. Then we'll get into lightsabers and we'll talk about Exar Kun. And we're only going to talk about his Jedi journey first, since I added these two topics. And then next week we'll get part 3, going into his him becoming a Sith. So very interesting lore. You have Freedon Nod, who is involved in that, which is another amazing character there in his own right. So Factor Filter says, good morning all. Smash the like button and share around the stream. I got my nice vanilla and nut cream flavored caf and ready to go. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. Afternoon, everybody. Afternoon to you. Brandon, thank you so much. And a channel member. Again, if you can support the channel, I would appreciate it. Become a channel member. And yes, I am going to still have my Clone Wars 03 watch party. I figured out how to do it without having to have you have your own copy. So I was talking with Lorena in the past and seeing how she uses hers, how she uses StreamYard. So stay tuned for that. So if you haven't become a member, let's see here. We are coming into September. So let's go ahead. I'm going to look at my calendar real quick and give a guesstimate. So I would say around the 20th. So that's in the middle of the week, but that's not the date. So towards the second last week of September, a final date will be announced, or we will have the stream. So stay tuned for that. Life had me very busy. Things were going on and I just not pegged down. In fact, I have my Luke Skywalker Jedi Order versus the Disney Luke Skywalker Jedi Order basically just ready to upload. So been crazy. I've been feeling a little bit frustrated with Star Wars or things in general regarding Star Wars and how people are, it feels like I'm coming to a dead end or something, but I'm not. It was just frustration. So I had to sit back and just allow myself to just um, go through the motions, and we're here. I'm not going to give up on the channel. I'm not going to give up on you. So Bot2 says, morning gang, and good morning to you. Fracture Filter afternoon. Yes, I love that you guys are greeting each other. Nice community here. I really respect all you guys. Let's see here. Jackson. Hello. Hello. How are you doing? Not much, just getting ready for the stream. Okay, you guys are talking. And then Zachariot, how are you doing? Cheers to you. Cheers to you. Howdy, Alora and chat. And let's see, I've got nothing on my on me today, unfortunately. You guys are chatting with each other. And then, hey, all, please hit the like and share the stream out. And then thank you so much for Soul Assassin always being here to modding and giving links to the topics we're talking about if possible, and also contributing to the conversation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Dicare is here. Hello all. And then another channel member, Sith Assassin Trela. Hello all, and hello to you. And then coffee had to settle for decaf. I didn't check the labels. Whoopsie. Oh, I hate when you go to the store and you just grab because you need to get in and out real quick and you grab the wrong thing. Sorry to hear that. And let's see here. Let me scroll down. And then, yes, midichlorians. And depends on one's midichlorian count. Correct. Midichlorians, everyone has them, but not everyone has enough to be force sensitive. Correct. Correct. And I think that's what a lot of people are misunderstanding here. And God, since I commented about, that topic on Twitter, I've gotten some strange ass DMs, and then people really pissed off because I'm sharing information that they don't like. Obviously, they didn't like the fact that, I brought up midichlorians because they didn't like the fact that George brought midichlorians in. And I'm going to share how midichlorians came about for George Lucas. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up here. Let me see. Being force sensitive isn't enough. Look at Zane Carrick, who was weak in the force. Yes, and there's people who are weak in the force. And so, that probably is what they're going to do with Sabine, which I could care less. But it's still kind of like how Ahsoka's talking to her and stuff like that. That looks like how they're going to do. So there's instances of, in the original lore, having Jedi or honorary Jedi, past and present, even in Luke's order, who was weak in the Force, that still was brought in for their talents outside of the Force, and then mastering their own abilities within the Force to become a Jedi Knight or a Master. So there's those little tiny fine lines there. So, there's, like I said, there's characters that had other strong abilities that has nothing to do with the Force that contributed to their need to be either a Jedi or part of something bigger. Yeah. Yeah, Jedis probably don't hurt. Yeah. And that's where you get, like, with Anakin's story, and then when you hear Luke talking to Leia, the Force is strong in my family. The reason why they know it's strong is not basically the ability, but the midichlorian count as well. And that was what was revealed in The Phantom Menace. Just because Hera heard Sabine trained with the dark saber, correct? And the thing is, too, is like through midichlorians, you're able. It's called sensitivity for a reason. You're able, like the midichlorians are the conduits, and you're able to feel the Force or sense other people in the Force if you're strong enough, if you have that training. Let's see here. George explains the Force. Thank you. I don't know about harnessing it, but Han's legendary luck and Theron's tactical genius could be just a touch of sensitivity, and it flows through all living things. And that's the speculation, which was never for Han. Yes, it was questioned when Jaina married Jag. They questioned that. But with Ron, that was never even approached as a theory or a question. So thank you for bringing that up. Genetics don't hurt, but there are definitely more incorporeal factors: will, soul, potential, and environmental need, etc. So, like, you can't. That's why they say the force is inherited, right? Because it's genetic. It's genetic. That's why Luke was telling, the force is strong in my family. It's genetic. I don't understand why people get their minds so worked up about the midichlorians, where they just stick to one little interview from George Lucas saying it's not true, but even though George Lucas is the one that created the midichlorians. It says that view of midichlorians only gives credence to the transfusion Kark in Mando season 3. The midichlorian count, they took that from the original lore. They took that from the original lore. The midichlorians is what makes someone strong in the Force. Star Wars theology. Hello, may the Force be with you all, and I'm happy you're here with us. All right, let me go ahead and bring that up here, and then we'll get into lightsabers. And then we'll get into Exar Kun. We'll save the best for last before we get into Cringe Factor. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way up to the first post here. This is what I responded to, and I'm not showing everything that's going on my screen here because this is Twitter. I love the fact they are making it canon that any living being can connect to the Force, and that connection can be discovered by anyone. Hell, this is from George Lucas's own words confirming this. And so this is about Sabine. I'm not going to read here. I'll just leave it here. You guys can just scan through it real quick. So people are saying a lot of people get confused about the Force. This person is confused about the Force because it's more than just anybody can have it. Everybody has the Force flowing through them. Yes, that is true. But they are not. If they don't have enough midichlorians, then they're not really able to use it. There's such thing as innate use, and that's just like instinctual. And those who are Force sensitives usually have that. Doesn't mean that training is out the door. It doesn't mean that training, they don't need training. Innate is just instinctual, like reflexes and stuff, like you see with the pod racing for Anakin and Luke Skywalker able to shoot wampa rats, I guess you could say, and pilot. So those are innate instinctual abilities. Let's see what, and then I replied here, what is being forgot is the midichlorian aspect. Yes, the Force flows through beings. Midichlorians determines if the being is Force sensitive enough to train to use it. Midichlorians is a means to keep Force sensitives to be a select few instead of everybody being one. And so this person right here is the one that I carried the conversation with. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you may, or if you do follow me on Twitter, then you may have seen me going back and forth with this guy. And so far for the knowledge. Okay, you can tell the prequel generation from those who've been with it from the very start. People hated Lucas for coming up with midichlorians. And even if it was hated, it's still part of the lore. It doesn't change the fact that even his original scripts were about the wills. The wills exist within the midichlorians, and they use the Force, and that's what makes Force sensitivity. In episode 1, because it undermined everything that was said about the Force and about Luke's journey of small town boy becoming a Jedi. I don't know where he gets at this undermines Luke's journey as a small town boy that became a Jedi. I have no idea where midichlorians come into factor. All midichlorians is about is basically genetics, which they already established that even in the OT without even saying it. And then, so I'm going to scroll all the way down our conversation there, but there's a important one here. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this one here. Let me see here. Stop it. Hopefully you guys can hear it. So this is Theory, who is agreeing with this aspect as well. And mind you, yeah, he has 1 million followers, but he is also forgetting about the midichlorian aspects, and he only uses just a small part of the video of George Lucas talking about the Force. So let me see. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear this. I'm going to push play. Let me know.
George had said that everyone in the Star Wars galaxy is Force sensitive.
Everyone has the Force in them. Everyone. There's two sides to the Force. The dark side, which is selfishness, and the light side, which is compassion.
George said in the Star Wars archives with Paul Duncan, he said, it's like learning karate. Everyone can learn karate. It just depends on skill, how much you practice, how much you train, and of course, talent. Anakin, for example, extremely talented, and he trained not as much as, let's say, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he was on par with Obi-Wan, if anything, more powerful. Nick Gillard came up with a power system. Obi-Wan was at a 7. Once Anakin went to the dark side, he jumped a level and passed, and he jumped up to level 9. Is literally just verbatim what George has said years and years and years ago. But I know a lot of people are going to have a big problem with it, but it's literally what's been in Star Wars since the original trilogy. George had said.
All right, so we have that here. And yes, he had said that, but he said more than what is being said here about the midichlorians. And Nick coming up with a power system, Nick Ladd, that's not lore. That was just his own theory. That was just his own theory here. And I do have that archives episode 1 through 3. I have to find those pages to report more on that. You guys will probably see that on Twitter. So midichlorians is what gives the factor of if someone how Force sensitive one is. And you would think that Star Wars Theory would have mentioned that, would have like, okay, this is what George said, but then also this is what makes someone Force sensitive because this is what George applied. Yeah, the level 9 and stuff was all about the lightsaber combat stuff like that. Yeah, so it has nothing to do with that. So, but that's just his system there. That's just his system there. So let me go ahead and read this here that I shared with this guy because he was trying to, he was taking this as factual, not realizing. Whoopsie. Okay, so I said, yes, they all have midichlorians. Some have very little, very, very little, which means they aren't or can't feel it or harness it if trained. Some have so many, they are very powerful and can advance with training. What you shared does not disprove midichlorians or Anakin's origins, because he also said that this destroys Anakin's origins, and I don't know why. And then I shared this quote here from Qui-Gon. Without the midichlorians, life could not exist, and we would have no knowledge of the Force. They continually speak to us, telling us the will of the Force. When you learn to quiet your mind, you'll hear them speaking to you. So the midichlorians are helping the Force communicate with you. That's what makes you Force sensitive. And this person is failing to realize, a lot of people are failing to realize that the midichlorians helps the Force communicate with you. So the more midichlorian count you have in the body, the stronger you are to harness the Force. Holy shit, what a crazy concept George came up with, right? It's amazing. It's amazing because it doesn't take away the mystery. It just shares how the body consumes it. So you are a Force sensitive. And then I go on midichlorians, and this is from a source, and I'll go on with that. Midichlorians were intelligent microscopic life forms that lived symbiotically inside the cells of all living things. When present in sufficient numbers, they can allow their host to detect the pervasive energy field known as the Force. So let me say that again. When present in sufficient numbers, they could allow their host to detect the pervasive energy field known as the Force. Midichlorians counts were linked to potential in the Force, ranging from normal human levels from 2,500 per cell to much higher levels, and there's even lower. So that's just the average for a human, which means 2,500. You're not really a Force sensitive. I think I have to go back and take a look at that, because I think to become a Jedi you have to have like 7,000 or something like that. I'm not sure. That the minimum. I'm gonna have to do some. We're gonna have to talk about this more. The highest known midi-chlorian count was over 20,000 per cell, belonging to the Jedi Anakin Skywalker, who was believed to have been conceived by the midichlorians, or by the Force, basically. Yeah, the Force conceived by midichlorians through his mama. And here's a little bit of history here. And this comes from the source, Making of Star Wars, the definitive story behind the original film, hardcover edition. Midichlorians were first conceived by George Lucas as early as 1977. In this time, the first expanded universe products were being created, including the ongoing Marvel Star Wars series and Ellen Dean Foster's novel Splinters of the Mind's Eye. Lucas sat down with a member of his staff, Carol Titleman, to dictate a number of guidelines for these works, explaining various concepts of his universe. Among them were an explanation of midichlorians, which Force-sensitive beings were said to have more in their cells. Again, so Force-sensitive beings were said to have more in their cells, making them, strong in the Force, Force-sensitive. And again, this comes from the Making of Star Wars, the definitive story behind the original film, hardcover edition. And then going on to the next one. However, Lucas did not feel he had the time to introduce the concept of midichlorians. The idea would not appear in any Star Wars products for 22 years. Mind you, just like I said, his first draft of Star Wars was called The Wheels, which basically goes into midichlorians. So Lucas chose in 1999's Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, as the opportunity to first mention the midichlorians, explaining why some were sensitive to the Force while others were not. Whoa, what a concept here. In The Phantom Menace, the opportunity for him to explain why some were sensitive to the Force while others were not. Meaning, not everybody could use the Force, were Force sensitive. Holy crap. An issue that had left unresolved since the original film, Star Wars film. Lucas incorporated the exploration of midichlorians into the film as part of Anakin Skywalker's journey towards understanding the Force. And this is from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace DVD commentary. So there you guys go. Midichlorians explains why some people are Force sensitive while others are not. Says it all here in the source. And then I pulled this one up here too from my, because I have the James Cameron book where it has George Lucas's interview with him. And then this explains George's trilogy. So after he created all 6 films and told his story about Anakin and Luke Skywalker, and felt that he was done telling it on film, his next trilogy was going to be about the midichlorians, the Wheels trilogy, basically. James Cameron says there's an ecosystem inside us called the microbiome that they're just learning about now. And George Lucas comments, the next 3 Star Wars, we're going to get into microbiotic worlds. But there's this world of creatures that operate differently than we do. I call them the Wheels. And the Wheels are the ones who actually control the universe. And they feed off the Force. So another explanation here. And this guy got so mad at me. I'm just going to share here. Stop. You're wrong and cannot even admit it. We're talking before the prequels. There's zero proof that Lucas ever mentioned the Force are made from midichlorians, and I never said the Force was made from midichlorians, nor did I share that he said they were made from midichlorians. That was something he conjured up in episode 1, which I just shared it was not. I guess this guy does not read. It was said that more than once in the OT trilogy. So there we go. I got to see what you guys are yapping about in here. Let's see here. Whoopsie. Come on. Oh no, my StreamYard's not letting me click on the thing here. Let me see here. Are you going to come up? StreamYards, don't do this to me now. All right. So it's not letting me click on that right now. Wow. There we go. Maybe. There we go. And if the Darksaber's creator was a Jedi, he was likely a Jedi Guardian. Let's see here. I guess they're going to take their time. Yes, midichlorian is the key to master the Force. Hello, Blood Guilty Gaming. How are you doing? And welcome to the channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Caf Chat. Liked and shared. Thank you so much. And Jackson says, so in the JKA trilogy, Jedi Knight trilogy, was the device Wedge came up upon in the abandoned Imperial lab and external midichlorian scanner? I believe it is. I'm going to pull that up and share some more because I did delve into that a little bit more last night. I did not share it, but it is linked to like sensing the midichlorians. But we will get into that later. But good question about that. Seeing Blood Guilty share this out. Thanks, bro. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Diddly Squat is here. Midichlorians appears in various OT scripts. Correct. And then typical shield behavior, ignoring the evidence even when the evidence is right there in front of their face. Correct. So this is very interesting because this is what, like, again, like myself and even my my friends from the spacing, Tim, Tuscan Bob, and many others, even Blake, and this goes not even with this is also outside of Star Wars and other franchises. But when they have a chance to reboot or retell their own stories, they are going to change the perception of what the viewer sees the original content, right? And this is what's happening here. This is another thing. So they have that little cushion to say, oh, well, this is what George said. So they're right. They're staying with how George created the universe and the Force, right? So they're using that small little tiny cushions, but forgetting about the midichlorians. And they're like saying, and then some people are telling me, well, that was such a lame idea and fans hated it, and it's glad that they're not going with it. I'm glad they're not going with it. And then I ask them, well, what about that Baby Yoda plot in The Mandalorian where he was kidnapped and being used for his midichlorian count? That's not getting rid of the concept of midichlorians, so they're skirting around, taking cherry picking like they always do what George said so that everybody can be Force sensitive, so that Sabine can be Force sensitive, where in the original lore that never happened. And they explained, well, those who were weak in the Force that really didn't qualify to be a Jedi or could fully train to use the Force, they shared how it could be so. So it's very weird. It's like, as always, it's like the OG or original Star Wars did it better, did it within continuity means, didn't hurt the lore. It wasn't retconning anything whatsoever. Let me see. OG, remember, he's a canon fan, and canon fans' logic is the garbage will do. So you mean Disney canon? Because canon to me, I just love it when my internet decides to be a chum, or be not a chum because that's friendly. It's not being friendly, being ass. let me see. My phone is connected to the internet too. And said, and when they have no evidence, then Legends 1 is idiotic. Correct. So the Force, the lore was expanded by George Lucas. We can say that. We can also say that he said that anyone can have the Force because the Force flows through everyone. But it also is if someone, a Force sensitive, is determined on their midichlorians. So there's all of that. Let me see. I thought it was my internet that freaked out. Yep, and the rookie critic is here. How are you doing? I just got here and you're frozen. Laugh out loud. Yes, I did freeze up. I am back. I am back. Yeah, had to do that. So those who are joining in, what's in your mug? What are you enjoying as we sit and chat? So there's that. So they're changing how people perceive, look at the Force so that they can have their character be some kind of Jedi Force sensitive. They are retconning who Ahsoka is in front of your guys' eyes. She's never been a Jedi. She walked away from that. She never completed her training. You can't compare it to Luke because Luke had training by the masters. He never walked away and he became a Jedi. He basically finished his trials. And we see that happen in Return of the Jedi. But then you have Filoni saying that Luke never became a Jedi. So there you have that as well. So you kind of see where Filoni is going here. He's making his character more significant than the Skywalkers. And he also loves Rey. And he also has been trained by Rian Johnson to help to, in filmography, I guess you can say. So he has all that, all those ties. So, and then he has the same ideals as Disney Corporation itself about the direction with diversity and female leads and characters and all of that. So we have that as well. So he is not the savior of Star Wars. I mean, for real, okay, so Raging Rhino, basically, I'm going to go ahead and close the screen out. But Raging Rhino, basically, I'm going to share that. So let me find it real quick. But Raging Rhino had a great point, and I'm going to share that with you guys here. So if you guys are on Twitter and you haven't seen it yet, please go and follow him if you're not. And then also like this comment, maybe share your opinion about it as well. Keep it civil. Let me see, but I'm going to say it here or pull this up here. All right, so I have it here. I just got to share the screen now. Let me go ahead and there we go. Let me pull this up here, add to the stream. And I do have two things happening here, so I will get to you two in a minute here. So Raging Rhino had this great point. There's a question going around about hashtag Star Wars. Is it saved, or is Filoni the savior? Well, I have a question. What's wrong with Star Wars that it needs saving? I thought Star Wars was the best it's ever been. The fact that it needs saving, quote unquote saving, tells you it's bad, right? So basically, people are saying it's saving or you need saving, but then people are also saying it's the best it's ever been. So what is it? What is it? So go follow him if you have not. And then thank you to Fractured Filter for becoming a channel member. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, all of you guys. I appreciate your subscribers, channel members, what have you. You guys are amazing. You guys, what keeps me going when I feel frustrated. Sometimes I pause and step away, but I always return because of you. Because without the heart of George Lucas's Star Wars in front of us, we tend to give up and walk away, right? But if we keep where the heart of Star Wars is, then we tend to allow it to live on. So thank you guys so much for, and thank you Fractured Filter for becoming a channel member. And then a super chat from Abu Nas, $10, another channel member here. I'm finally able to pop in and say hi. And I've been listening to your explanation of the midichlorians, which is very well said. And you know the hate is real with Filoni Simps, but sending love to you as always. Yes, I even got some weird DMs too. So, I mean, people are just like pissed off at me for bringing up the midichlorians and also other information about what George Lucas has said about the midichlorians. They seem to just like cherry pick to make things seem like, you know, to make something make sense or make something more valid, I guess you could say. And I just saw his tweet. I gave it a like. Thank you so much. And you might want to, you know, offer your own theories or maybe agree or maybe offer more to what he said, you know, creating a good conversation with this. Let's see here. And then I have another super chat here. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Did I miss it in the beginning or did it pop up? Oh, wow. You guys are just awesome here. Okay. So, and then Batu says, I, for one, like having Ahsoka as a Padawan. Her departure added a sense of tragedy to Anakin's story, but now she's kind of stealing the show. She is stealing the show. She is stealing the show. Let's see here. We need to get lightsabers and Exar Kun. I think I'm going to save lightsabers for next week. Let's get into Exar Kun. So, because he is the main lore topic here, and I went straight into this Force abilities stuff, and we are coming up on the hour in 20 minutes or less, and then we have Cringe Factor. So, Rebel Scum Network, $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Join the rebellion. Join the rebellion. There you go. Join the rebellion. Let's see here. And there we go. And a $10 super chat here, the Rookie Critic. These conversations on Twitter about sabers, the Force, and Ahsoka and whatnot are interesting and bizarre. I might actually make a video. The show is less cringe than others, but still awful, like really bad. What about her flying? What about her jumping around in space? You could say that she was using the Force to stick herself to the hull of the ship, but still. And then using her lightsabers to reach out and destroy a ship. I don't know. You think that the speed of the ship and all of that would have compromised her, but you know, that's another story in itself. Another story in itself. And also and deflecting those big old laser blasts from the ship towards her, which is probably going, and I had this conversation with Tim because he pointed out like speeders and Luke blocking the speeders blasters, laser blasts. You know, they're going fast, so I get it. But spaceships, starfighters are probably going faster and maneuvering differently in space. And then their lasers blasts are probably going faster as well. And they are a lot bigger, more powerful because they are, you know, programmed to destroy big items like ships. So how in the hell could her lightsaber deflect and stop him? But, you know, don't think, just consume. That's the theme of this all, right? That's the theme of this all, because you would think people in their right mind would be questioning that. No matter if you're a huge Filoni simp or not, you would think that they would be questioning all of that, but they are not. So there we go. Let's see here. That's exactly what they're doing, cherry picking. It's not your fault that you pay attention to details. Yeah, they are so pissed off that I pay attention to details. Someone's like, just stop. Just stop. I'm like, no. I'm watching, I'm seeing this all unfold in front of my eyes. I did not watch the show, but like people are sending me clips of the scenes, asking me questions. So I go back and I do my research. And with what I know about the lore, and then also cross-referencing even their own lore, what's been, let me take this off the screen, what's being said. I'll put this one in here so we can go into that. I analyze. I am an analyzer. I go and analyze things, and I compare and contrast. That's just my nature. I analyze stuff, and I try to make sense of everything and present it to you guys. But because I do that, It pisses a lot of people off. And what about maxichlorians? Maxichlorians. I just seen this. Okay, so I skipped over some people's replies, but it looks like you guys are chatting with each other. Maxichlorians, is that for the force is female kind of thing? If you guys get what I'm saying, sorry about that, TMI. Sorry, Soul Assassin, you set this up. Hail OG, tardy again. That's okay, Star Wars Marvel purist. And you guys, check out the Knights of Melvin. I'm burnt out on Ahsoka, and I didn't even watch that trash. It's hard work defending and preserving the George Lucas Star Wars, and the EU can't allow the revisionist history. I hear you. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And then I have another super chat here. Jason Fox, hail at OG Star Wars, and thank you so much. It's a member chat, member for 6 months. Thank you so much, and welcome me back to Caf Chat. Let's see here. And Rebel Scum says, I'm going to start making videos again soon. I am so happy. Tag me to it if we are friends on Twitter. Let me know. And then you guys go ahead and subscribe to his channel. Check out his channel. She should have just kept floating away. Magnetic or gravity boots or whatever only work if they're attached to the ship, just like magnets on your refrigerator. And then let's see here. I love how nobody noticed that she got stabbed in one place, but not and got the scar somewhere else. Yeah, that's another thing people are trying to, are not realizing. Kit Fisto had to swing quite hard to deflect tank droid blast in the Attack of the Clones. Correct. I'll be live next Wednesday night on Dark Council. I seen that you guys rescheduled, so you guys check that out there. I'm pretty sure they're going to talk about episode 3 and 4 of Ahsoka, so be there for that. We have Lord Callus there that talks about both Disney and George Lucas lore, so feel free to go and listen to their theories, their opinions, what have you, are all of it. So all of it. Rebel Scum Network says, got tired of Disney Star Wars, so I stopped making content. Now with all the Disney shills out, I may start uploading again. Do it. Soul Assassin, you set that up. My mind went there. You should know better than that. You should know me by now. Okay, so we're going to spend we're going to talk about Exar Kun, and then we're going to get into Cringe Factor. So let's go ahead and do this. I just want to get through some more of these comments, and then we'll get into it. She's as bad as Rey, but the difference is that most people know that Rey is a Mary Sue, while acting like Ahsoka is somehow one of the best characters in Star Wars. TCW Ahsoka, and give me a break. You can progress your character into becoming a Mary Sue, and that's what's happening. 99th Jedi Warrior. I think Exar Kun was also Ulic Udroma's master as a Sith. I have to look into that. I think so too. But yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, sub to Darth Melvin. We need some more knights on that end. There you will get the Avenging of Star Wars, basically. Here too. Here you'll get a refresher on refreshing your mind and going back to the heart of Star Wars. Because sometimes, being out there in the front lines of avenging Star Wars can get tiresome. We're human. And so come over here for some fun and some lore talk and stuff to refresh yourself, kind of like bathe yourself from the trash that you're facing. Rebel Scum Network, Knights of Melvin. Yep. Here you go. All right, so let's get into Exar Kun. I think that's you are welcome. And tonight as well, check out Raging Rhino. He goes on, I think, a little earlier. I just don't have the time in front of me. They are reviewing Ahsoka episode 3, so go check that out. I do part of my platform is comparing and contrasting between the lores and stuff, just like we did with this Force, the Force lore. So I keep track of what's going on and do my research without watching it. And you can talk about and do your research about a show without watching it and giving your time towards it that way, or even your money towards it. So don't tell anybody, or don't let anybody tell you any different. So let's go ahead and get into Exar Kun. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the screen for a little bit. So, and put myself, I'm going to rearrange. There we go. There we go. So Exar Kun, here's just a little bit of information. It's the same picture I shared from last week. But we are going to get into him as a Jedi. So anybody who knows about Exar Kun, but maybe lacking some information, you're in the right place. But even if you know and you read and you love Exar Kun, or even if he's just a character that you're curious about and know about, that's cool. You're in the right place. So knowledge doesn't apply here. It's about talking about him and exploring his character and learning more about him, because you never know. When we reread, and that's Matt Wilkins too, he's rereading the books again through the EU. He's learning, oh crap, I didn't realize this from the last time I read. So you're always making a new discovery about these characters or the story or what have you. So Exar Kun, this is basically, I call it his events. So this is his Jedi period. So, or his, not the kind of period you think, okay, you guys, because I know we were talking about that earlier, but Jedi time frame. There you go. That's a better wording. Jedi time frame. And then Star Wars, Marvel Pierce, Exar Kun, a real Tales of the Jedi story. Correct. You know, that's another thing, is that they reuse the title for their show, which is misleading. So, you know, and when you search Jedi or Tales of the Jedi, you're going to get Filoni's cartoon miniseries rather than the comic series. When you type in New Jedi Order now, you're going to see a lot more Rey now, because they're calling her movie the New Jedi Order kind of theme, I guess you could say. So they're redirecting the old into the new and making it hard for you to find classical Star Wars. That's another tactic. Don't forget that. That's another tactic of theirs. So anyways, back to Exar Kun. Back to the man himself. So he was recognized as talented, being an apprentice to Jedi Master Vodo Sios Boss. So Vodo Boss. Vodo Boss. Vodo Boss. I can't even freaking say the name. What the hell's wrong with me? Let me see here. I got a question. Isn't Exar Kun the old Sith time frame, Star Wars time frame? Yes. He is. This is like 3 centuries before A New Hope, I guess you can say. So this goes way back. So you could see the extent of history. The Star Wars lore, was created by George and the writers he brought in, or the creators that he brought in to expand on his lore. So it's this is what makes Star Wars fun, and what is distinctively different than Disney's Star Wars. So yes, this is his bit of history here. This is Exar Kun. The Star Wars history is vast, 25,000 years plus. If you want to get really into the early years or stages of Star Wars, like you got the Rakata, who has been, who basically discovered, hyperspace travel and other things. There's so much that they contribute to, but they are also an empire as well, wanting to rule the galaxy. But now you have space whales that are the ones that basically, paved the path of hyperspace lanes and stuff like that. So you went from Rakata to these space whales or squids or whatever they are. Classical Star Wars Rakata species to these friggin' space whales of Disney Star Wars. Can you imagine that? Just imagine that. Oh my God. So yeah, so we're talking Old Republic and pre-Old Republic shit here. You got this intelligent species, the ricotta, versus these space whales that paved hyperspace lanes. Lady of Iron, space whales, what did I miss? We're just talking about pre-Old Republic lore with Ricotta, who basically discovered hyperspace travel, all of that, versus what Disney did now with the the space whales paving hyperspace lanes throughout the galaxy. Ricotta are space whales confirmed. Let's see here. Let's see. Exar Kun was also a master of an Niman practitioner. He wielded 2 lightsabers against his master during the sparring match. Correct. And we haven't got there yet, but yes, he has. And I'm not going to get too much into detail. So if I didn't share something that you think that should be shared, feel free to share it in the chat. So I'm creating a conversation and opening this up for conversation. So I have notes written down because there's a lot to digest here. I have notes written down. And so if I fail to mention something, or if they're not in my notes and I didn't mention it, feel free to bring them up. Just need a little galactic melted butter and we're golden. Let's see here. Leave it to Dave Filoni, turning things more childish. Correct. Those space whales don't even make sense. But they're going to say, oh, well, there's that worm that was in the asteroid that Han and Leia hid in Empire Strikes Back. So they'll use that to compare. Yeah, but I got depressed over Disney Star Wars, so I stopped uploading to the channel. Yeah, I understand. That happens. Really took away from achievements of ancient humans and Duros who rebuilt the Ricotta hyperdrive with those damn whales. Correct. And that's another thing, too. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. And then, the Corellians, too, basically helped with creating the hyperdrive engines as well. So there's a lot, of course, you said ancient humans, but there's a lot of history going on that these space whales now make it so fucking laughable. It's so sad, but it's so fucking funny. So fucking funny. Okay. You're okay. Okay. All right. So his master was Vodo Boss. So there we go. And his pride had him wanting to become the greatest Jedi to exist. So, he was so determined. He wanted, and all of that. He's like, I want to be recognized. I want to be the greatest ever, which pride starts putting you towards the dark side, right? So there's a little hint there of the dark side for Exar Kun. His pride wanted him to become the greatest Jedi to exist. And everybody's talking about space whales. This is what happens when I kind of stray off the path and talk about some shitty stuff in Disney Star Wars. But anyways, he pushed himself and believed himself ready to learn the forbidden history of the Sith, the knowledge and history of the Sith. So because he, had that pride, wanted to be the greatest, pushed himself, really advanced himself, or tried to really advance himself, because he had potential. Exar Kun had potential. I wish I knew his midichlorian counts. I might have to look that up and share that on my community page. We like to talk about how dumb space whales are. And then Exar Kun, or Soul Assassins share an Exar Kun video here. So because of his pride, his pride, basically, he thought he was ready. He thought he was capable and ready, strong enough, all of that, to basically learn about the Sith, their knowledge, their history. So he took his master's holocron and contained the wealth of Sith information. And that's where he first learned about Freedom Nod, who at the time and his time ruled as the Sith King, basically. So he stole the holocron from his master. You know, there's a reason why masters really don't, like, back in that time frame, were, you know, forbidden their apprentices at the time to look at holocrons, especially about Sith. Just like when Yoda was telling Luke that he wasn't ready to face Vader yet. It's the same thing. You still have a lot of growth and learning to do. Yeah. So there's that same, kind of the same concept here. He wasn't ready. He wasn't strong enough. He was very corruptible still. Yeah. So he's, you know, so after being caught and confronted with his master, Exar Kun basically walked away. He walked away from his master because he felt he was privileged enough, and I hate using that word how it's being used today, but his pride and all of that got the best of him, and he thought that he should be privy to all of this, even though his master, who is guiding him to learn, grow, explore, like himself in the Force and his character, felt that he wasn't ready. So interested in the Sith, he took the Starstorm starship, or it's called the Starstorm 1. It's a starship to seek Freedom Nod. So because he got to learn more about who Freedom Nod is in the time frame of having his master's holocron, and there was a duel during the time, you know, he was sparring with some of his colleagues, I guess you could say, the other apprentices and stuff like that. So there was a whole little duel going on, and stuff, and then his confrontation with his master about the holocron, a lot going on during that time, and then he just left. And he took this, like I said, the Starfighter Starstorm 1 to seek out more information about Freedom Nod. And this is all about, and and him in his right mind was thinking that he was doing right by himself, that he was embedded in the light side, so he would be okay. Didn't heed his master at all. Correct. So he'd had a rivalry with his fellow students, Salvar and Credo. Yes, correct. That's right. I was waiting for someone to catch that, because I was like, should I talk about the whole rivalry thing here? And I guess you could say that's kind of another factor to why he left as well. So this guy, Exar Kun, he was already full of himself, right? Crazy, amazing character, crazy arc here, and I can't wait to get into the Sith part of his journey. So we're just getting into his Jedi part of his journey. Yeah, OG is lucky to have you at Soul Assassin. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I was thinking, should I talk all about the rivalry with the students, Salvar and Credo? So like I said, if there's something that I didn't write down and are not talking about, bring it up, because that brings more conversation. And then to me, that also tests you guys on your knowledge. Like, okay, if I'm missing something or if I didn't bring it up, then someone in the chat will, to carry the conversation, let the conversation expand from what I said. Yes. Yeah, some Neiman practitioners tend to be pretty prideful. Exar Kun, Darth Sidious, and Darth Krayt, to name a few. Well, dark side users, dark side Sith, or dark Jedi, are very, very prideful. They are. And let's see, arrogance, a great fast track to the dark side. Correct. And if you guys have not read the comics, Tales of the Jedi, I highly recommend them. If you can find them, and I haven't shared links in a long time on how to find like even comics without the Legends label. So if you haven't found them yet, and you're looking for them, I will share a link. I will do a little bit of research, pull them up. Sometimes you can find them for cheap, sometimes not. So sometimes I'd say it might be the investment if you're willing to expand your library without the Legends label on it. Feel free to, if you don't mind. And I hate, last thing I recommend is buying something with the Legend label and giving Disney back your money. If that's last result, it's the last result. But I highly recommend finding third-hand sources here or what have you and getting the material. So I'll share in my community page on Twitter and here on YouTube links to where you can find some of these comics so you can add them to your collection. All right, going back. Now Exar Kun is on his journey to discover more about Freedom Nod. So he travels to Onderon. So Onderon Jedi archaeologist and Arca-Jeth. I was hoping to do a PowerPoint with this and have everything in front of you, but I didn't. So Onderon. He went to Onderon, posed as a Jedi archaeologist, and was confronted by Arca-Jeth. Because over there on Onderon, that's where was the last known to have, the Sith were at. And so he was posing as a Jedi archaeologist to investigate Freedom Nod and the Sith on Onderon. Arca-Jeth confronted Exar Kun. Kun then reached Duxon and came across the corpse of Nod. So over there on Onderon, they were salvaging through the Sith ship that was left there and collecting all the information and was going to take all of that to the Ossus Jedi library there. And that's what, Arca-Jeth and all of them were doing over there. And so Freedom Nod was like, I'm going to go be a poser as an archaeologist, which, you would think that maybe he would have thought better because, Jedi, they do communicate. So that was kind of funny. That was kind of like, okay, all right, well, I guess if that's what you're going to do. But yeah, so Arca-Jeth confronted him and stuff. And so he when he went to Duxun there, he came across the corpse of Nod, whose spirit had him remove his corpse from the sarcophagus and led Kun to find the scrolls of Nod's former master. So Freedom Nod was like confronting him as a spirit, a Sith spirit. Again, we need to talk about Sith spirit versus Force ghosts, completely different. And he was telling him, remove my corpse, help me out, dude. And I'm being silly, okay, you guys. And I will gift you with the scrolls for you to learn more about the Sith. So that was very tempting for Exar Kun. That was very tempting for him indeed. And he decided to follow suit. Let's see here. And it goes on. Like I said, I have notes here because there's a lot going on here. And it's like, if I would have I like to take a lot of notes, so I had to kind of restrain myself. So like I said, if there's something that in the time period I'm talking about you want to bring it up in the chat and we'll expand on it some more. And let's see here. Sith spirits bound to items or locations, correct. All right. So during the time, he was confronted by Nebo and Rosk, and he had killed him, which basically he was goaded on by Nod, and he used the dark side to kill him. And then Exar Kun was like taken back from it, like, oh shit, because he still thinks he's imbued in the light, still thinks he's doing things for good. And Nebo and Ross, basically, what happened with that, it was they were attempting to rob him, take the scrolls, and all this other stuff, and all that. Returning, and then so he returned to the Storm 1 ship. He ran the scrolls through an electrical translator. Remember my conversation about paper in Star Wars? Well, these scrolls are paper, basically. So they are some form of or was it called flimsy plaster or whatever. So he took the scrolls and ran them through the translator in the electrical translator in the ship, and learning the location of Korriban. So basically, Exar Kun is like, take my corpse. So he took the corpse and the scrolls and take me to the last known sanctuary, planet, or whatever you want to call it, of the Sith. So he scanned the scrolls, found out the location of Korriban, and more about the Sith. So basically, this is his journey to the dark side, in a sense. The strong Jedi who got prideful. Pride basically is one of the factors of going dark. It's even in the Sith code. Yeah. Journeying to Korriban. He basically, landed down in the Valley of the Dark Lords. The Dark Lords. So here we go. Korriban. Korriban is not spoken about too much. I don't see a lot of people talking about it as of lately. Might be a nice video to bring up for myself. I have to finish up and upload that one about Luke Skywalker and his Jedi Order. So Korriban. What do you guys know about Korriban? We're going to talk about this. We're almost done here. Well, kind of. And then we're going to get into Cringe Factor. So Cringe Factor will have a whole half an hour. It'll be easy. We'll laugh and cringe about what's coming up. And then we'll close out the show. So what do you know about Korriban? Dilly Squat's laughing. Korriban didn't house Freedom Nod's tomb. Many Sith Lords were buried there. So, yeah, his tomb, Freedom Nod's tomb, was on Onderon. So, and then Exar Kun took him and his corpse there to Korriban because there he is attached to his corpse. That's why he took the corpse. Home of the Sith until the Republic showed up. Marka Ragnos. That was an OG Sith Lord stronghold, correct. I like how you say that. Miss Sith Assassin Trayla. She's like, I know my home world. Now let's see where I left off at. Destroying animated. So basically, as he went into the temple there, or leaving the ship, going towards the temple there, or whatever it's called, the temple. Yes, because we'll get to what's going to happen there. The dark, like Korriban, or not Korriban. Yeah, Korriban is imbued in dark side. It's like so heavy in the dark side. Like when you even go into the future of reading Star Wars, and Luke Skywalker takes some of him and his Jedi to Korriban in Fate of the Jedi, it is so imbued in the Force, the dark side of the Force. You have to be a very strong master, Jedi master, to not let it overcome and take you. That's how much of the dark side essence of the Force is imbued there. And that's why it's the home of the Sith. So those skeletons were animated by the dark side and started attacking Exar Kun as he was following Nod. It's like me and Han and Han and Han. All right. Sorry, you guys. I have a pronunciation problem. Sorry. But anyways, so he's following Freedom into the temple, and basically took down some dark animated skeletons, and he felt an overwhelming like essence of the dark side, like when Luke Skywalker was like almost, I think it was Luke, or maybe it was Jaina, or maybe someone else that was on that mission to Korriban that I just was talking about, and it was like felt very heavy and sticky, or maybe it was Ben Skywalker, but heavy and sticky kind of made them feel gross. That's how strong the dark side of the Force is there on Korriban. So, Exar Kun was feeling it. And he was like, oh shit. So he's going to turn around and return to the ship. And that's where his exit, or the entrance that he came in, now his exit, was closed by a rock slide. So he had no choice but to keep going. So he kept going to, following Freedom's spirit into the temple. And then as he got in there, Freedom Nad collapsed the temple on top of Exar Kun, nearly crushing him. Nearly killing him. And this is where the ultimatums started coming up. So as the structure was coming down and collapsing on Exar Kun, nearly killing him, Freedom Nad promising the only way to be saved is by surrendering to the dark side. Yep. So basically, if you want to live, come to the dark side. Kind of like what Vader was telling Luke in Empire Strikes Back after he cut off his arm. Come with me. If you want to live. That kind of analogy. That kind of analogy. But then, it wasn't on the nose to where you would think, like how Disney is doing this. It's like poetry, it rhymes kind of deal. When, if you guys have watched, anybody has watched the Ahsoka Show, has pointed out that that it's reminiscent to A New Hope with the lightsaber training, and then part of the space battle, so there you go. Those were, some of the points that people were hitting, like, oh, they're copying A New Hope kind of deal. They're like, oh, look at member berries A New Hope. But anyways, this right here, you can kind of correlate it to, like Vader telling Luke to join him. That's the only way he could save himself. But the words were very different, but you kind of see the correlation in how Sith manipulates, how Sith can trap you to the point of feeling like there's no return, and the only hope is surrendering to the dark side. Surrendering to the dark side. So very interesting how they did that. Very clever. Very, very clever, because it's not like it's copying what happened in Empire Strikes Back, but then it also gives to how Sith can seduce you, corner you, give you, make you make this decision, like if you want to survive, dark side, not death kind of deal. So I think that's very, very clever. Very, very clever. So Nod tested Kun and learned he couldn't draw on the light side. So during this time, after Exar Kun was freed, Freedom Nod tested Exar Kun, and he tried to fight back using the light side, and Exar Kun realized that he couldn't harness the light side. He was so imbued in the dark side, the energy of Korriban, all of that he had no choice. And the test was, and I forgot to mention it, was that he sent out the two Kata beasts, and those are dark side beasts. I think they're the hounds. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong or right or whatever. But so he did that. So to protect himself, he had to use the dark side. So he fully surrendered to the dark side, couldn't use the light whatsoever. And so this is the beginning of Exar Kun's fall to the dark side, if he hasn't done it already. So, that's the question here, is that we see him, because when we get more into his going into the Sith part of his life next week, you will see that he's also basically kind of he's in denial in a sense. He still thinks he's light, he still thinks he's doing good, what have you. He hasn't fully embraced it, even though he is now dark side, I guess you could say. So there's that question there, or that little bit of like nuance there of him in denial. And this will go into part 3. Exar Kun began his journey to the dark side. So this is where it starts getting more interesting. We get into a lot more events during that time. A lot more events, and what happens on Ossus as well. All of that. So let's see here. Let me see what you guys have to say. And now we're going to get into Cringe Factor. Woohoo. Korriban was also in several Star Wars games, KOTOR series, and even in Jedi Knights Jedi Academy. Yes. And so, yeah, so you weren't here last week. We did talk about that. Exar Kun basically influenced not only the past Star Wars history, but into the future, into Luke Skywalker forming his academy, forming his order in the early stages. Ulic Qel-Droma was pretty much Anakin Skywalker before Anakin, minus the Chosen One prophecy. All right. So with that being said, if you guys have anything else you want to expand on during this time frame for Exar Kun and his demise, his fall on Korriban, let me know. We're going to start getting into Cringe Factor, but we still have about another 5 minutes, and then we'll dive into our Cringe Factor here. So anything else you want to elaborate in Exar Kun's Jedi history, or Jedi part of his life and his ascendance to Korriban into the dark side? Please share. So yes, member berries, Minoc berries. Let's see here. Yep, same theme, different methods. I agree. Let's see here. Korriban was also in several Star. Oh, I read that. Duh, Alora. Renegade Squadron baited Palpatine to Korriban while the rebels stole the second Death Star plans. There we go. We're getting a little bit more into Korriban history there as well. Very good. The very land of Korriban corrupts its wildlife. Correct. There are creatures known as Hissis, dark side dragons live there. There's so many different creatures. I'm going to ask you guys on my community page about this, if you guys can answer all of those, but stay tuned. So if you're not a part of my community page on Twitter, feel free to join. I do have a waiting list because there's a few people that I'm investigating before I bring them in, because I don't want people to go in malicious, creating problems, what have you. It's all about George Lucas era. We really don't talk about Disney Star Wars there whatsoever. Korriban plays with the mind. Those 3 Tyrantic hunters were falling to the dark side, and one of them was Ulic's cousin. Yeah, that's right. Let's see here. And I have very little knowledge of Star Wars EU stuff beyond a very simple stuff, I'm afraid. That's okay. I'm glad you're here. You're learning more, which probably gets you excited to read like Jedi Academy Trilogy and even the Tales of the Jedi. Hissis are large lizards that can cloak themselves with the dark side. And not only that, but they had a venom and that slowly corrupts the victim, turning them to the dark side. Yep. Very Korriban, very interesting world. Very, very interesting world. So let's see here. Let's get into our Cringe Factor. Any more comments, then let me know here before we move on. Let me see here. And I see you guys are coming up with some more stuff, or at least talking with each other. I'm going to pull up something real quick. Let's see here. Whoops, I took it off. You weren't supposed to do that. There we go. And we're going to get into Cringe Factor here. So, yeah, Star Wars, Marvel Pierce, always got to screen the rats and haters these days. Correct. I've been bombarded by them the last day and a half or 2 days. Just because I talked about midichlorians and called out people's misconception about the Force. Yeah, so that's very crazy in itself. Crazy in itself, but that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes sometimes. Let's see here. And new to Star Wars, check out the channel for fan audiobooks. Yeah, so there you go. So if you're a busy person, and I always recommend this, I love reading. I love sitting down with the book, chilling, because I'm a person that's always on the go. And this is why I listen to Audible. But because I'm a person always on the go, sometimes sitting down with a book slows me down, lets me find some stillness. However, when you get busy and you're like, I want to go ahead and pick off where I started in the book, the Audible is great to have. So if you're running around doing errands, if you're cleaning the house, put on the Audible. There you go. My kid sometimes gets mad at me. You got to listen to that again? Yes, I do. But it's all there. So you have the books, you have the Audibles. Fantastic time to be a Star Wars fan. George Lucas era Star Wars fan is what I mean. And in Sator, you can have Hissus as a mount. The thing is, I constantly keep forgetting there are more complex ideas of Star Wars, and it is going to be a headache when I try to write my own Star Wars book trilogy. You need to invest in some Western Games books and the RPGs, because that has a lot of history and rules there to the lore. So Western Games, I recommend, so that you can refer to while writing your Star Wars books, your, and stuff like that. Then you can, stay in continuity with the George Lucas era of Star Wars, and you'll be much better for it. So West End Games, if you can find them, I will search them up to see, and even source books for certain timelines. You can find those and use those as resources as well. The atlas that is created is another one that you can use for planets. There's so many resources there, and I highly recommend, if you're the one that loves to explore the world building behind Star Wars, all these resource books that I've been mentioning are amazing. Diddley Squat says, imagine telling everyone that Star Wars is for kids, yet don't understand the basic simple stuff like midichlorians. That's because their minds are not as developed as kids. I'm sorry I had to go there, but yeah. Anyways, and you are welcome. So I will go ahead and share. I will do some of my homework before I have to clean this house. We had our tribal community had our annual powwow. We had like 500 dancers, probably more. I'm not sure, a little bit less this last weekend. And so my house is basically with dance regalia or items all over. And then having, being in and out of the house, not getting chores done over the weekend. So I've been catching up on life, really been catching up. So once I'll do that, and then I'll clean around the house, take a break, share some more resources for you guys, so you guys can add to your collection, whether it's source books or it's novels. Well, novels could be source books too, because Kathleen Kennedy, we have no sources. I have a whole library behind me of sources, and let me turn my screen on. Here we go. Fracture Filter says, I know a site where you can download digital versions of the Western Games books for Star Wars if anybody wants. Yes, because I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't recall. So please share with me. All right. So let's do this, you guys. Let's get into Cringe Factor here, our most favorite topic of the Caf Chat. And I say that maybe in a sarcastic way, maybe in an amusing way. So let's do this.
So uncivilized.
All right, so we have this here. And some of you might catch on with my thumbnail what Cringe Factor is about. It's always decided like within a day or two before, or even up to the hour when I create a stream. So Cringe Factor doesn't have a set topic. It's always one that evolves or fruitions, I guess you can say, as we come to Caf Chat live. So Star Wars finally explains how Yoda hid from Palpatine and the Empire on Dagobah. So this is another one where it's like they allude to the fact that it's never happened before until Disney got a hold of Star Wars. Now the question is, do you know how Yoda hid his force presence from the Emperor? Now we're getting back into the Force, right? So do you know how he hid his Force presence from Palpatine? And this is by Molly Brazil. So I am not privy on who this person is. I don't. Okay, this is Molly here. She is on Twitter. Let's check this out. Writer, storyteller, lover of Star Wars, and Din Djarin. Oh, senior writer for Star Wars for Screen Rant. Former Halcyon crew member. What? She was a former Halcyon crew member? All opinions are my own. Okay, so this is who we are dealing with. All right. That is her, ladies and gentlemen. So she is basically a Star Wars Disney Star Wars fan and worked at one point for them, I guess you can say. So maybe maybe I take that back. This is going to be biased. Darkside Cave mask Yoda's Force signature. Let's see here. In Jedi Academy, Luke's surmised that Dagobah's dark side or hid him from the Emperor's notice. Of course, Yoda pulled a Jake Skywalker and cut himself from the Force, but then used the Force to lift Luke's X-wing and died because of that. I wouldn't put it past them whatsoever. All right, so let's get into this. Let me go ahead and zoom in. All right. The truth of how Yoda hid himself from Palpatine has been revealed in Star Wars 4 years after Return of the Jedi. So that's basically that 40 years, like, Return of the Jedi, like, that book. I can't even think of the name. Anyways, or maybe that's the name. 40 years after Return of the Jedi. Dagobah was initially thought to be Yoda's home planet and was as well as that of his unknown species until the prequel Star Wars trilogy and more began. Okay, so let's get you out of this here. I need to get a pop-up blocker because those things just are annoying. As well as his own species until the Star Wars trilogy. So did you guys really think that Dagobah was Yoda's home when you first watched the original trilogy? Let me know. And then and more began to unravel Yoda's past and clarified that he lived there as part of his self-decreed exile. The swamp planet was only his home for a small fraction of his life, which most of it having been spent on Coruscant. So, okay, so we're getting into that history there. It's been a mystery as to why Yoda chose Dagobah ever since he fled there after failing to defeat Palpatine in the Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. The planet is very close to Mustafar, Darth Vader's own planet of residence, where Palpatine surely traveled quite a bit post Revenge of the Sith. While Dagobah certainly has the qualities desirable of keeping people away from it, there was always the possibility of Palpatine being able to sense Yoda's Force energy and track him down. Star Wars has now revealed why that wasn't possible and why Yoda chose Dagobah so specifically as his hideout. So there, like I said, here it is, another key word, key sentence here. Star Wars has now, and I wish I could circle this here, now, as if it never was revealed before. This is why this is a cringe factor article, because we are continuing to see these writers make it sound like Disney discovered, because Kathleen Kennedy said there was no source materials, that they are now sharing these events as if it was never revealed in the past. As if fans like me are that naive to believe they're bullshit. The new fans probably do. Hell, they think that midichlorians don't exist. So there you go. The dark side cave on Dagobah was held and balanced by Yoda. So this is the key. The key word, I'm going to just highlight this, the key word, balance. So Yoda, because he is strong light side user, and the dark side, the cave is embedded with the dark side, that they together, they held balance. So Yoda held balance. So think about that. Think about that. All right. Star Wars, or The Empire Strikes Back, showed the cave on Dagobah that Luke entered to be full of dark side energy. The short story Bauman, as featured from the certain point of view Return of the Jedi. See, this is where it came from. So certain point of view Return of the Jedi, and we did review some of this information. Some of these stories are revealed. Some of the information from this on the space scene, which was again and cringe in itself, reveals that the darkness held within that cave was actually balanced out by the light of Yoda's presence on the planet. So again, it was actually balanced out by the light of Yoda's presence on the planet. What do you guys think about that? So they're going now, like batteries, the negative and positive energy, blah, blah, blah. From the original lore, the dark side masked him. The dark side was so present there on Dagobah and the cave that it masked Yoda, which now they're saying that him and the cave created balance so he was not be able to be detected. You see what they're pulling here? They're pulling like 1 and 1 equals 2, basically 1 and 1 equals balance kind of deal, or 2 plus 2 equals balance. That's another thing that people said about the Jedi at the time. Like Yoda and Obi-Wan and Vader and Palpatine. So there was balance when there was only those two factions existing. So do you see what they're doing here? Instead of the dark side masking, as said in the lore, it's now creating balance. So now he can't be detected. Now that's an anomaly. That's an anomaly. I can't even talk in the Force. If there's a balance, do you think that Palpatine would figure that out? If there's a change in the Force's structure, for example, that's what this is. If there's a change in the Force's structure in an area that's known to be dark, do you think that wouldn't be noticed and felt by other Force users? Rather than the dark side masking the presence of Yoda, which doesn't change anything? What do you think about that? A change in the structure of the Force, which a Force user, going back to midichlorians and all that, could use or feel, can feel that change in the Force, because that's detectable by Force users. Someone's change in the Force, their thoughts or whatever. So the change in the Force could be detected by someone as strong as Palpatine. So if there is balance created with the light and the dark, wouldn't that be detected? more so than if the dark side just masks and hides someone, because the dark side was used to mask Palpatine. He used the dark side to mask him, his presence. So there you go. So what do you guys think? The balance between the two explains why Palpatine couldn't sense Yoda. So let's get into that. With Yoda's force energy bringing balance to Dagobah. Oh, he balanced out Dagobah. Someone's force energy does not bring balance alone. Palpatine wouldn't have been able to sense the Jedi on the planet. The darkness provided a shield for Yoda. Oh, now they're going to the darkness that provided shield for Yoda. So they're going back to that. Okay, let's see this explanation by this lady. Had it not been there, would have given Yoda away from with an overpowering of the light side. So how can it be a shield but then also create balance? Instead, Yoda used the darkness for good, bringing balance to the planet in a way that helped not only himself. Oh, so he healed the planet then? Is this what this is saying? But certainly also the other creatures and life surrounding him. Palpatine couldn't sense Yoda, and in return, Yoda saved Dagobah from falling to utter darkness as long as he could. So if he created balance, balance is light. Original lore, balance is light. So if he created balance and brought the cave and the planet back to the light, wouldn't that shift be felt by Palpatine? Think about that. If he brought balance, which is the light side, back to Dagobah, back to that cave, spared the creatures from living the life of darkness, I guess you could say, wouldn't that be felt by Palpatine? I don't think these people thought this through. Dagobah ended up being a perfect place for Yoda to balance his force energy. Now he has to balance his force energy. So we go from him balancing, hiding, creating balance, hiding in balance with the cave, to being masked and now balancing the force on Dagobah, to now balancing his own force energy to remain hidden. I don't think this person even thought through this article. Though the question of what other Star Wars planets may have also been, I would love to see him go on Korriban, since we talked about Korriban and that being explained away. Yoda's going to go on Korriban and balance the planet and save it. And himself, balance himself as well. Going back, though the question of what other Star Wars planets may have also been able to do for this has been posed. Star Wars: The Last Jedi sees a similar situation on Octu, with the hole of darkness Rey plunges herself into. That hole of darkness, that looked like a butthole she jumped into. I'm sorry to go there, but that looked like a friggin' butthole. So I guess you could say it's a hole of darkness. I don't know. I just went there. Sorry, you guys, TMI. But that's just where my thought went to. I'm sorry. Since Luke cut himself off from the Force, however, it remains a mystery whether that planet would have also worked for Yoda in keeping himself hidden. The importance of balance in the Force has often been emphasized in Star Wars, and Yoda was able to set it to protect himself on Dagobah for the last years of his life. So there you go. Balance is light. Balance is not equal light and dark, and that's what they're alluding to here. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about this here? Let me see what you guys have to say. Testing 1, 2, 3. I must have froze up again. I'm sorry. Oh God, that's a go. Okay, let me see here. Dagobah is a planet full of wildlife. The darkness on Dagobah is not so much of the darkness of the Sith, but rather the darkness of its wildlife. Eat or be eaten, survival of the fittest, and then the dark side cave. There's a reason why there's a dark side cave. And Yoda fought Dark Jedi there, and George Cardass was involved. So if you guys don't know about that information, you can read a little bit of Outbound Flight to get geared towards that. But then the Thrawn duology gets into that more. 99th Jedi Warrior says, and no, I don't believe that darkness was unleashed after his death. I believe it was always there even before Yoda even stepped on it. Plus, it didn't release the darkness. Let me see here. The new fans are huge nightmares, OG. I had an unpleasant talk with one about Mando culture. They have no idea how certain things work. They don't. So Yoda was being like Master Thrawn from the Old Republic who held the darkness of Umbria locked away in a lake. I don't know. And I don't even think that they even realize that story plot as well. I wouldn't give them that much credit. Isn't because I'm pretty sure if that's where they were going to going for, they would have mentioned it. Isn't it more funny once you know that had in the helmet was actually, or the head and helmet was actually Mark and not a prop, and his struggled to keep his eyes open because of the smoke. That was very interesting behind the scenes stuff. For Jedi, the balance is absence of the Sith, not the eradication of the dark side. The dark side cannot be truly defeated, and the same can be said for light side, correct? Yum. Revisionist history. Repeat the same lies of minor modifications over time, and they begin to be thought of as truth. History of the dark side cave has been done already. Yes. And here you guys go. Feel free to scroll in the comments and find this and click on it. Save the link. Watch it. Expand your Star Wars knowledge. Yoda remembered the dark side presence there from the first encounter with the dark sider, correct? The real question is, what was Yoda cooking? Do you smell what Yoda's cooking? Let's see here. I don't think I've ever thought about that. For sure, he lived there, but calling it his home world seems a stretch, considering he was hidden like Obi-Wan. Yes. We can see here. The Shield Cruiser employee, thank God they're now extinct. Wow. Ouch. Ooh, good thing the Shield Cruiser was taken down. You are now extinct. Of course, Yoda pulled a Jake Skywalker and cut himself. Okay, that's where I left off at. Let me scroll all the way down. We're going to start closing out here. So let me get you guys' last comments here. Okay, yeah. So I read all that there. So put this link up here one more time. So there you guys go. So again, the point of this Cringe Factor article is to share how they're making it sound like this was never done before until Disney's Star Wars. But we know that's not the case. With Soul Assassin sharing links of history that was already expanded on for the Dagobah, the Dark Side Cave, events that happened there and why it's dark. The whole planet itself, it's not dark. The cave is. But because he lived near the cave, because the cave is embedded or imbued with dark side essence, it hid him. And also, Dagobah was a planet that was not known. That's why it was never developed or anything like that. It was not a known planet there. Like even when Leia was like, I was wondering, and this is in Thrawn Trilogy, she was like, I was wondering where, Yoda was hiding at. When her and Luke were talking about Luke going to Dagobah and finding that that device, what was it? A comm link, like a comm link there or whatever it is. I forgot what it was, exactly what it was. But anyways, I'm like brain farting here as well. But anyway, so he found something pre-Clone Wars or Clone Wars era thing. And our post, I'm sorry, it was post, not pre, or Clone Wars. But the technology does date to the Clone Wars, but it was post Clone Wars event that happened there on Dagobah with Yoda and Darkside Jedi and George Cardass. So a very interesting storyline in itself there. So I recommend that you eventually when you have time, explore it, because it goes into a situation where Yoda is telling George Cardass, I can heal you, but I have to save my energy for the greatest, and I'm paraphrasing, for the greatest assignment I've ever faced in my lifetime. And when George Cardass was telling that to Talon Card is like, all the puzzle pieces are falling together. Basically, he was preparing to train Luke Skywalker. So very interesting story. Again, linking history, linking events, all of that. So this is something that was not just discovered by Disney Star Wars. This is something that has been established pre-Disney. So check it out. Let me see here. And then also the same thing was actually brought up in the Shatterpoint novel. Mace Windu had come to a conclusion about Quran named. Oh yeah, I was reviewing that as well just recently. Shatterpoint, you are right. I'll check out the Weston Game books when I get a chance. May they guide my thought. May they be my guide throughout the galaxy. Yeah, they will be. In fact, George, one fun fact here, like when Timothy Zahn and other authors were writing their stories, expanding on the lore, George Lucas recommended Weston Games source books to them to help with keeping continuity and stuff like that. So that's another interesting little fact there. That's why I recommend it to you. Diddly squat. And it's so funny that they keep saying Star Wars is doing it and not some random dude writing what she wants, regardless to how accurate it is. Let's see here. He doesn't make the darkness, he only uses it. His inner darkness is the reflection of darkness of his world. Mace Windu and yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I guess here's another one. I don't see Vaster as evil, not as truly a bad man. Yes, he radiates darkness, but also do all Kuranai and the Balawai. He is the darkness of the jungle, not the darkness of the Sith. George Cardass looks a lot like Lucas. What if George is from that galaxy telling us from a certain point of view? And here we're going into theories now. That's an interesting one in itself. Sabine can take both of them. And Knights of Melvin. Oh my God. You missed some great conversations here. Thank you for dropping in. And again, become a Knight of Melvin. I am a what do you call it? Lady Sith of the Knights of Melvin there. So I recommend you go, support, check out his Discord, subscribe, or even become a member. We need more knights out there, just like we need some original George Lucas members here. So join. This is all about avenging Star Wars and keeping the heart of it present and in front of everybody. Lady of Iron says, I really need to buy more of the books I couldn't buy, but they're also so expensive. Again, I will share some more links. I haven't been keeping up on sharing links like I usually have, so I will share some. And I'll share them here on my YouTube community page as well as my Twitter community page, so that you can cross-reference. So if you're not on Twitter X, then you could still get the same information from me. There we go. All right, you guys. There's the link. Subscribe to the Knights, to Darth Malvin, and become a Knight as well. We are going to begin to close this stream down. So any other questions you have about what we talked about with this Cringe Factor, Exar Kun, or the Force, please share with me. We still have I'm giving us 5 more minutes here. Rebel Scum Network says they will either join us or be destroyed. And there you go at Lady Iron. So there are audio books as well, but if you want the books itself, again, I'll share links for that as well. I adore audiobooks, especially when they're unabridged. So like if I'm in need quick resources, and I will pull them up. I may share clips, sound clips of them on Twitter and stuff like that. So easy to access, and then gives me like a understanding of where that actual quote I'm looking for is inside the book, so I can take a screenshot of the book and share that as well. So I have all these little ways of sharing the lore, comparing and contrasting, and proving misconceptions with actual quotes and all this other stuff. So I have my methods. There's a method to my madness, and so I'm sharing it with you guys here. The trophy here, smiling, thank you so much. Great stream emoji, thank you so much. All right, so if there's not any other pending questions here about anything we talked about lore-wise, or anything that's coming up right now lore-wise that we haven't talked about, we're going to begin to start closing down the stream. Okay, the archivist is a good for unbridged audio, correct. You have OG's EU Praxium and Darth Melvin's Knights. Things are getting wild. Yeah, getting wild here. I love it. The shorts they have been releasing. Yes. And then, thank you, Soul Assassin. Yes, thank you so much. So again, thank you guys so very much for tuning in for this Thursday Caf Chat. I am so happy to be here with you every Thursday. Stay privy to the channel, because content is coming out, has been coming out, whether it's shorts or videos or what have you. It's taken slower than normal. I apologize. Life happens. So, but I'm still here with you guys. Still here to talk lore with you guys, answer questions, compare and contrast between the original Star Wars versus the Disney Faux Wars. And so there you have it. So thank you guys again, and may the Force be with you.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Another happy landing.